Welcome to another edition of the Business Builders podcast. It's the podcast that's dedicated to construction and trade individuals. It's not mechanical in the sense of this is a procurement schedule or that is a CVR. It's more about the individuals talking about their life journeys, how they succeeded, how they have problems, how they overcome those problems. And today we have Simon Liddle of SML Decorators. And at this part of the episode, I'd like to hand you over to Simon. Say thanks, Simon, for coming today. And how did you get into decorating?
Well, it was funny really because, as like we've been involved in football for quite a while, and from kids, and I really did ended up wanting to be a footballer, but that dream sort of failed sort of miserably about 17.
Got closer.
Yeah, I did get a little bit close, yeah. But what happened was, I ended up getting a job and working for an electrician. And unfortunately at 17 it didn't really work out because I was working over at Kingston. I ended up burning out all these drills within 2 weeks. So he didn't really want me having him with him, which was fine. But the big company that he was working for, the main contractor, was called Millettrian, and they was based in Sutton, and that's where I lived. So he ended up getting me a job there, which was quite fortunate for me because I was going to be desperate for a job, after getting the boot from
What
him
was
after
the
2
role
weeks.
then when you went there? What was
I
doing what?
was just going to be a trainee electrician with him,
Right.
and he was going to show me the ropes. But obviously, after 2 weeks, it just wasn't going to happen. Probably no fault of my own. I like to think so,
Never
anyway.
is, yeah.
So he just got me a job with a main contractor, and it was Mike Dawes and Keith Dawes for Millettrian, and they kindly took me under their wing and put me under the painting division, and it already started from there. And I never really looked back after that. And I had some really, really good teachers there from very experienced painters, and they ended up putting me through college, and I was going every 6 weeks. It was 2 weeks I was going, and I thoroughly enjoyed it really, and I really did learn a lot, and there was so much humour on the job as well. They were real all characters. And I think that sort of stays with you for the amount of time, well, until now. I mean, I was driving up here earlier on thinking about, a couple of the guys, from then onwards, from when I was working with them. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And
Yeah,
that's
but
what got...
with some of the older guys and the old trades, which you don't get so much nowadays, it's having that eye for detail, isn't it? It's the way that they can show you shortcuts, not shortcuts to get the job done quicker, but shortcuts to actually get the job done better, and little kind of tips that they can get you. Because a lot of the textbook stuff now of apprentice, some of these apprenticeships nowadays, it's very sterile. They don't have this kind of same background that some of these older guys do that they can hand down to you.
Yeah, I think the MVQ now for trades is a lot shorter than when we done it. And the apprenticeships aren't really over a period of time. Like when I first joined as an apprentice, I was literally used as an apprentice, abused a little bit probably, but that was part of the, growing up with it all and that, and that really made you mentally strong when you was a painter. Nowadays, an MVQ, they come and take photographs of your work and everything. They don't actually see that you're actually doing it. It could be someone else's work. And I mean, also with the new builds, especially what we do, the new build work, we haven't got time to train anybody up because the program's too short. So I think we've sort of lost that apprenticeship that serves the industry well. I think we've lost that a little bit, and it's a shame that we haven't got time for these people to learn properly and to do a proper job.
Yeah.
But that takes time.
Yeah, it does. And unfortunately nowadays, with everything being so money driven, it's very difficult to actually be able to afford apprenticeships and put them on. You're charging time and a half is not going to work, is it? You're not going to win the
No.
win the scheme. So you got into decorating. Obviously, you mentioned with the main contractor. Was you always doing sort of commercial development work, or did you, at what point did you go off on your own, and did you go into residential? What's your particular journey in terms of getting to where you are now?
Well, I made sure that I knew everything from the experience of the people I was working from before I even thought about leaving and going on my own. And it's poignant that I actually brought up football earlier on, because after I'd done my time with Millettrian and going to college, learning off the really good guys that were there, learning wallpapering, painting, all the preparation, and going to different jobs and experiencing different levels of paintwork. It wasn't just factories or commercial, it was people's homes. and like really nice homes they were as well. So you could do every single level of painting and decorating to whatever finish that people required, and I'm very grateful for that. Then one day I sort of thought, well, rather than working with a company, I'm sort of driven to earning money, and I've got a little drive in me that I wanted to do something a bit more for myself. So I ended up going out on my own, and the company I was working for, my lecturer, were very supportive. Funny enough, I thought they'd be a bit, not too good about it, but they were quite supportive, and they, give me a few jobs here and there. But it was mainly because where I dropped into non-league football as well, I had a massive connection of people. They was in the building trade, they were surveyors, they were architects, they were people that was involved within the construction industry. And because of that big network, I was playing for 2 or 3 different teams when I got to that point. So, going from knowing 15, 20 people at a club, I now knew 70, 80 people.
Yeah.
And that really grew my network. And, when I look back now, I'm actually looking back thinking I didn't have to advertise or anything because the network was already there. The people to give me work was there. All I had to do is really work on them and find out what sort of work they do and where they were based. Yeah, and people just gave me some work. I went from one job to another. I just started doing people's houses, people's front rooms. Then it turned into bigger hallways. Then it turned into the inside and outside of houses. And then it just grew. And it just grew from there.
So it was really so if anybody's listening to this who's thinking of getting into your line of work, obviously today is with social media, it's a lot, the way you make relationship now is a lot different. But the key there is obviously to make as many contacts and establish as many contacts as you can. Is that how you sort of saw it back then?
Yeah, I think the more people the better it is, because then they're projecting the good word of like your good work, and they're broadcasting it for you. And that's really what you need. If you don't know many people, I think you're going to struggle. And if you're going to rely on maybe social media, maybe it's different now, like then they didn't have social media and that sort of thing. So now it might be slightly different, but all mine was word of mouth. But nowadays, would you do social media? Probably would, actually. Rather than putting leaflets through people's doors, everything's on Facebook, and all those platforms are available to everybody.
So when you started doing, say, the living rooms, just the one rooms, then you scaled up, was that a conscious decision, or was it just that people were coming to you with bigger jobs, and you think, oh, I'm going to have to get...
Well, I think when you go on your own, I don't think you're really in control of what you're going to get. You have to turn up, price the job, and like, they know what you can do because they've already had the conversation on the phone for you to go there to sort of view it and to price it up. So I saw it was front rooms, staircases, and it was generally houses. And then I used to go from one to the other, and then I bumped into a couple of surveyors, and I bumped into another surveyor who had another painting company, and he had too much work, so he used to give me some, and that used to keep me going. And then, funny enough, one day, this guy I used to play football with, he said to me, I'm working for Taylor Wimpey. Would you be interested in like a big job, for us, or like a bigger job for us? So I had a chat with this guy that I know, Alan Bates, from Banstead, and he was a surveyor. And I said, like, what do you think, Alan? And he said, he said, send it to me. We'll have a look at it. I can price it up because I can scale all the drawings and everything for you. So I said, okay, all right, we'll do that. And we more or less formed a partnership from then onwards, really. So I was using some of his guys. He was coming to the meetings with me and everything. And basically, he really taught me how to progress further and going into the bigger and more commercial stage of it.
What with the pricing and the
with the pricing, how to handle people, how to go into meetings and talk and chat about everything and say the right things. Because I think when you go into these pre-start meetings with people, I mean, anybody can big it up and talk a good game, and talk a good job, but you have to deliver, and you have to know the people that's going to do the delivering for you. And I was quite fortunate with him because he actually took me under his wing, and I learned a lot off of him. I learned a hell of a lot off of him. how to talk to people, how to get through those meetings, to know what I was talking about. And just snowballed from there, really. And that first job, I think, was probably going back about 25, 30 years ago now. I mean, that job was probably worth to us about £220,000.
Yeah.
So that was a nice sizable contract. It was down in Esher, funny enough.
Yeah.
So not far from here.
Yeah. It's a big jump, isn't it? So in terms of maintaining the quality, how do you, even now, obviously back then you've got the expertise yourself, but sometimes it's very difficult. A lot of people, especially if they're small solopreneurs, they're a little bit worried about how they want to do it all themselves because they're worried about the quality being compromised. How do you manage to keep the quality to a certain level so you are going to get the next job? You may have the relationship, but if it's ruined, then it's going to jeopardise any future work.
Well, I think there's a service you've got to give to people, and you've got to manage your company right. And I think the bigger it gets, you've got to be structured and got to have the right people in place. And the format that we put in, which I learnt off of Alan Bates, funny enough, was that you've got to have a foreman going around checking, because the person who's running the business can't be everywhere. You can't be pricing, you can't be doing the accounts, you can't be doing the invoicing, you can't be doing all the estimates and everything. I know there's a lot of jobs you have to do as a business owner, but you can't do everything. And if you delegate some things out to people who are responsible for doing it, and you give them the job roles like a foreman, I think, generally that's the way to go forward. Because if you take on too much, you physically can't handle and cope with it, and then the quality will go down and you will lose work. So we got to a point where I think we had about 10 or 12 guys on. So we really needed a foreman to take care of those guys and to be a bit of a middleman for them as well. And so that I didn't get all the calls of all the everyday sort of situations. My foreman would deal with that, and I was dealing with more of the upstairs sort of things of the business. So, and I think once you get that balance right, I think you're on a winner.
I agree. I think a lot of smaller companies see that as a cost instead of an investment, but you cannot scale, you cannot grow a business unless you can come away from the day-to-day side of the hands-on, if you like, and you can start to manage the business. So when you, obviously working with Alan, you've gone through and you've started to take on these larger projects, were they always for, say, contractors or developers, or did you still maintain, say, domestic residential work, or was it a conscious decision to stay in that lane because you were comfortable with it? Because there's arguments for and against whether you should go domestic or commercial. So just wonder what your thoughts were.
Well, someone said to me once that you can only earn a certain amount of money with one set of hands. You can earn a lot more money with more hands. And that's basically what I wanted to do. Once I heard that advice, that really sort of put me forward into projecting myself a little bit further along the field of business and making myself a little bit bigger and earning more money. And I had the strive to do that, really. I just had something within me that really wanted to do it. And I just pushed on with it. And I wasn't fazed or frightened about it all, because I actually had the right people around me to do it, and I had the right contacts to do it as well. And these were people I could speak to about a lot of things, and even clients as well. I remember the guy that gave me the first biggest job, as I said, for Taylor Wimpey Esher, he's now at Carla Holmes, and he's still giving me work,
It's a relationship again.
And that sort of relationship, you just can't buy, and I'm really grateful for the nicety of the people that we deal with. But not everyone you deal with is nice. Not everybody. We all know that. But then that comes with the jobs that we're in. We have made mistakes along the way. We've done some good things along the way. But I think the good things really outweigh the bad things that we've done or the mistakes that we made. So, we're pretty happy that where we are. And we're pretty happy. Well, I'm pretty happy with how like things have gone like that. And I think really you mould yourself into it. You sort of change as a person. You change your thinking of like going into domestic work, and then going into commercial. And I think if you learn off the people that's already been in it, it's a bit like being an apprentice. Learn all the good things out of people that have done it. because that's the best way to learn. You can go to college and have all these degrees and learn anything. If you're not a people's person, you're only going to be halfway there. So, and I'm very much a people's person. I can fit almost into anything with anybody. No matter what conversation it is, I'm a sort of social person. So, and that really got me through it. Plus, I was interested in actually pushing myself on, and I was really interested in my work. I had a lot of pride in it as well, and I still have today. I have the same pride as what I did now as when I was working, because I want to impress people, and I want to make sure that when people look at our work and I do something, they'll go, I want to use him again because I like what he does. And if it goes wrong, we're straight on the phone. My phone's always on, no matter how many times, night or day, it's on. And they can ring me, and whatever it is, we'll put it right straight away. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
We're never going to be 100%.
Yeah.
Never.
If anybody's listening, obviously you mentioned, if you don't, it depends examples you can give, but you mentioned some things where you made mistakes and things that went well. If there was anybody listening, there's any mistakes that you are happy to talk about that you could mention so somebody else listening doesn't make that same mistake. From a business perspective, when you were going through, is there any things that spring to mind that you think, I learned from that lesson, so I'm not doing it again?
Well, you always have the odd operative that turns up that say they can do something and they turn out they can't. And when you leave them somewhere, they don't quite do the sort of job that's expected of them. And we've all had them, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we see them every day, day in, day out. But I think if you're a service that can deliver something back very quickly, then I think it takes the worry out of people because they know they can rely on you. Like, for instance, a few years ago, I was working at a job just off of Shaftesbury Avenue in London. And what had happened was I had a couple of painters there working over a weekend, had to get a job done in some offices. And, well, I mean, this is a story they told me. They went off for a fag break outside. They left the dust sheet down with the paint on it. And the guy, the electrician or the ceiling fixer, had come in and knocked it over, but it disappeared. So it's funny how all these people disappear when people are talking about it, you know, and it's not their fault, of course. Anyway, the paint had bled through the dust sheet and it had gone onto the carpet tiles. So I thought, rather than leave this till Monday morning, because I know it'd be a problem, I rang the contracts manager, and it was another fella actually that was working from lecturing when I was an apprentice there. And I said to him, Gavin, I said, we've had a little problem on a job. Some paint has leaked through the dust sheet. Don't matter whose fault it is, but the problem's there, and it's all. There's about 5 or 6 carpet tiles with paint on them. What can we do? And is there anything I can do to sort that out? You know, or is there anything that you could help us with to sort that out? He said, Simon. He said, first of all, he said, thanks for ringing me up. He said, I don't care. It's a Saturday afternoon and I'm out with the family. He said, I'm glad you've done it because I didn't want to walk into that on Monday morning with a client. He said, let me make a phone call. I'll give you a phone call back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes come, Gav's on the phone. He said, Simon, he said, what we're going to do is there's a photocopier in the corner of the room. There are brand new tiles underneath it. We're going to move the photocopier, change over the tiles. No one will ever know about it and it won't be a problem. But he said, if you would have left that, I would have been in so much trouble on Monday. So he said, I'm glad you dealt with it straight away and picked up the phone to do it. And I think that's what you've got to do.
Yeah, I suppose in similar situations, there are some people that may have just, not my problem, put their hands up, you know.
Well, some people would have just walked away.
Yeah, and you would have created, and that's where it goes back. You've got the relationship, but you still have to have that attention to detail, that interest, and the customer service side is obviously. Yeah. I can hear that as you're talking now. The customer service side is extremely important to you. You have to be able to deliver, because you can have the relationships, but if your work's awful, you know, so you got to have it's a 2-string bow in that respect. Well,
I think you got to be responsive to your phone calls, and sometimes you got to be very quick in doing it, you know. And but like it's different when you got 10 or 12 or 14 guys that work for you, because you can always drag somebody away to go and do something or to help someone else out. If you're working on your own and you've got 2 jobs going, you can't be in 2 places at once. And if you've got no one to call on, sometimes that is a bit of a disadvantage, you know.
What's your thoughts on some of the larger, I've had other guests on here where they've turned around and said that they the carrot was dangled and they'd followed all the glittering gold bars and took on jobs that were too big for them, and then they got stung. Do you have any thoughts on that or any opinions? Has it happened to you, or you know people it's happened to?
Well, I think we've all gone down that yellow brick road, really, and we've all hit some sort of darkness along the way with it. And yeah, we've had some really unfortunate things go wrong in terms of like client they've gone under, clients that have disappeared, folded, gone into liquidation. Clients have just been obnoxious and not paid. Clients that didn't have the money, from the start. There's always been a few of those. And I think in business, when you look at it as a whole, you are going to get those people. And it's a bit like someone who's got a shop. There's always going to be someone that comes in to steal something from your shelf. But you got to be able to, not have as much of it, so put measures in place that there's not many of those people coming in your shop stealing. And B, to make a shop for your success that it can counter that, and it can do well enough to, have that little loss there, because, you're never ever going to bump into a client or clients throughout the whole of your lifetime, and that's not going to happen to you, because it is. You've got to be realistic in these situations.
What kind of measures if somebody's listening now, what kind of measures would you say that they should take perhaps to avoid? Is it take one at a time, or any kind of contingencies that you can put in place to stop people doing it? Because it's very hard when you're struggling for work and somebody says, oh, there's this job here, you can make X amount, thousand on this job. You come on this job, we'll look after you when you're struggling. And the temptation is enormous. But the end result, if you do that once too often, you're finished.
Well, I think there's two things there, Ray. I think there's insurance for it if you can afford it, or put that on top of the job, and on your estimate say you're going to put that on so the client can pay for it. And the second thing is, I think you've got to be good with money, and I am very, very good with money. I only pay myself a wage out of the business, because if something does go wrong, I've got a responsibility where I take on other people, and I've got a responsibility to them. I've seen so many people over the years that think that because they got 50, 60, 70 grand in the bank, that it's theirs. Well, it's not. It doesn't matter what company you own or what company you've got, you still work for that company. So that money really isn't yours, even if you're a director of a company, that still isn't your money.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. And that's actually, I could have gone under 2 or 3 times without that attitude, I think, really. Because
is that something you learned? Sorry to interrupt. Is that something you learned over the years? You think you've perfected it now, or is it something that you it was always with you, or there was a couple of little problems you had and you thought, actually, I need to do this to overcome that next time? Is it something you evolved over time?
I think that's the sort of person you are, really, because there's some people you talk to you're never going to get through to. We've all spoken to them sort of people. Yeah, I think you've got to be a bit pragmatic with it, really, and you really have to keep your head on your shoulders a little bit, and there's times when you can do things and times when you can't. It's the same as what it is in life, but yeah, you really have to keep your head screwed on with it, really. And you just have to do a little bit of forecasting each week, each fortnight, each month, knowing where your money's coming from, knowing how much you're going to pay out, knowing what you can do on the materials that you'll need, build up a good credit rating, generally build up a good company. But there are things that are going to go wrong, like people will go bust, clients will go bust, and you're always the last to know about it. But try and build up enough money there that it's not going to affect you. And also, don't work for the same person all the time.
Yeah, having eggs in one basket. Yeah, we've had a few conversations like that.
Because if everyone just works for the same person, nothing ever lasts forever. But if you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 clients that you're working for, you're spreading that cost. So
yeah. And do you have like a geographical range? Do you work within a certain range, or you happy to travel? Because sometimes that can be not cost effective if you're having to travel X amount of distance, or you can't get hold of the subcontractors or whatever to work on those sites if they're too far away. You don't have the same controls. Do you control it, or how do you work it?
We only work sort of like from North London right down to the south coast. We won't go down to Devon sort of way, but we'll go Hampshire, then we move over to sort of like Kent way. We won't go up as far as Norfolk or Essex really, because that will be out of our boundaries. London, is okay. But over the years, I've picked up numbers of painters that are all over the place really.
All right.
So that's been generally quite good. But you got to, don't overreach the boundaries of where you are, because you could struggle about, getting new people you're relying on. And if it's going to be a good contact for you, I don't think you should take that risk with people you don't know. Take the risk with people you do know, and then bring in people that you don't. Then when you're comfortable with them, and then maybe expand into other areas.
Yeah.
Geographical areas. So I think that's the way forward, really.
Do you find it tough at the moment to get skilled labour, or is it what's the quality like nowadays?
I don't think people have been trained up as best as what they should have been. We spoke about that earlier. I think the industry probably could do with more people learning over a longer period of time, but no one's got that time anymore. It just seems to be a fast pace all the time, and no one's interested about whether people are training. They just want people to do it. That's the general mood of it all. Just want you to do it, and that's it. So I think that's been taken out of our hands. And I think really coming out of COVID as well, I can remember talking to a lot of people, via the iPhone and everything, and everybody was really glad of like the rest, because it was such a fast pace. And then we come out of COVID and we're bang fast pace again.
Yeah.
We learned nothing from that. Nothing.
Yeah, sad, isn't it? It's the way the way we are, the human beings are. But if there was, I don't know, let's pick out 3 things. If there's somebody listening to this, he's done his apprenticeship or he's got his trades, he's in the painting decorating business, he is looking to start a business and he's looking to grow, and he's got aspirations of having 20, 30 people working for him. Any particular advice that you would give him? Anything you'd say, don't do this or do that?
I think you got to have contacts. You got to have people to give you work. Don't work for the same person all the time, as we covered. Always check people out, because some people aren't what they seem. So not everybody. There are really good people out there who do pay, even before the time of your invoice shows. And get yourself a good accountant, as well, because the laws are changing all the time, and you need to know the boundaries of your industry. And I always check every year, like on the government website, about what you can and can't claim for, and what are the realms of you in the construction industry, because that's different from the travel industry and other things, other sectors. So that's very important, and just go and do a good job, wherever you go, and always be on the phone. If things go wrong, always be there, attend things quickly, and be very prompt with your, someone rings you up, be very prompt in going out to look at the job, because I think it's been proven that there's a short window of time from you answering the phone to getting back to people, to looking at jobs, to getting an estimate over. You're more likely to win it by being quite prompt in doing that.
So that's a customer service again. But
Yeah.
with regards to the type of work, if you had your time over again, would you still stay in this line that you're in now, or would you say, I'd do, because you mentioned at the outset you'd done industrial all the way through. Is there a particular, seeing you've done all that now, if you had your time over, would you stay as it was, or would you go into another particular area? And what I mean by that is, would you go into industrial, or would you say just done homes, high-end homes, or would you have done the developing work that you do now?
If I had the choice, I'd like to just do the high-end homes, by myself, and maybe just with 1 or 2 others. But because I was going from house to house, and then more and more people were doing it, people had more and more choice. So my work was a bit more sort of hit or miss. So I had to expand myself into a bit of the commercial area to keep myself going. And I'm glad I did, really, because I do enjoy it. And I think that you have all the new houses being built now. This will probably see me all out with what's being built now. So like, things happen for a reason, don't they? You know, and like, I do know painters that have just stayed by themselves. But I'm glad I branched out, because otherwise, I think if I didn't have done or hadn't have done, I think I'd always be looking back thinking, I wish. Well, don't wish, go and do it. If it fails, at least you tried.
Yeah.
But, you know, there is money to be made out there. Just get a good business head on and go for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely go for it. Why not?
Okay, so with the commercial, the development work, if somebody's thinking of going into that, is there because there's a contractual element there, isn't there? Because if they've gone from working for a homeowner, I don't know, 25% up front or whatever, and then they payment on maybe on installments. But if they're working in that arena, it's going to be paid on measure. It's going to be signed off by a surveyor in many cases. Does that person need to do a little bit of homework on understanding how those contracts work?
Yes, there is. I think you need. Well, I fell into a surveyor that knew all that sort of side, so that was quite handy for me. But I think yes, you do need to do your due diligence on it. Definitely, it is a whole new world of it. But don't be frightened of it, because there are a lot of people out there doing it, and if there's a lot of people out there doing it, it can't be that bad. Although paperwork nowadays is quite they do lump more and more on you, as we all know, and nothing's made easier. I had this conversation on WhatsApp with my foreman. People move around from different companies, and they're putting the worst things in the contracts going forward with another company, and of course it makes it worse for the subcontractor like ourselves. There doesn't seem to be much trust in saying, oh yeah, just go ahead and do it. You've got to wait for an email. You've got to wait for a variation order.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're not going to get paid for it,
Yeah.
So you can be caught out. But in answer to that question, if you don't know, find out someone who does, and have a bit of advice. There are trade bodies out there that you can be in touch with. They will give you the advice. There's people out there, well, it's like LinkedIn now. You can put a shout out on LinkedIn. There'll always be someone out there from a different trade that will help you. And if it's paperwork, contracts, health and safety, that sort of thing, there are people out there that will help. And it's worth getting it checked out and done properly.
Yeah. With regards to because it is a tender scenario, are the prices being driven down to a point? It's because I'm just wondering, is it from my side, because obviously I'm not in that so much anymore. So if somebody was looking at the residential side, because they're seeing all the big numbers, but then they look at the commercial side and they see the regular work, is there a trade-off? Is the trade-off financial?
Yeah, I think it is, really. Yeah, I think it is. It's just whether you as a person can step up to that, because it's a different scenario, it's a different ball game, but it's a new challenge in your life, right? So why not go for it? If you think you can handle it and do it, why don't you go for it? That would be my advice to people. And yes, things have changed, and things will change. But I think if you feel strongly about it, and you rely on 2 or 3 contacts that are going to give you the work, but just don't jump in and take too much on too quick, because you'll have a financial problem, because you've got responsibility of paying people's wages, the health and safety.
Actually, I'll just stop you there. Health and safety is a different arena on site now, isn't it, compared with doing somebody's lovely detached house? It's a completely different.
Completely. Well, I've got I outsource it to a company that does all mine, and I tell them exactly what I want and what I need. They advise me. Every year they do it. They set me up templates for every job. They're always on the phone, and they're not overly expensive. Some people can be horrendously expensive with it all. But I've actually found someone, well, like a company that's like pretty decent like that, and they are on the phone, and like they're there to help as well and guide you through like exactly what you need.
Yeah, but it's even something like that. If somebody is thinking of going into that commercial world, straight away that's something they need to consider, because if they've only done domestic, they want to understand how much onus is put on health and safety. It's difficult to price it into the job, But if you don't do it, they use it against you. You can get chucked off the job. You won't get paid, etc., etc. So it's a very anybody listening, health and safety, due diligence, contract law to a point, but obviously in looking after the finances. Would there be anything else that you would add on to that?
Just do a good job.
yeah, yeah. Get the right colours.
Because otherwise, all this doesn't mean anything to you. Otherwise,
Yeah.
No, I just think keeping on top of it. But like the one thing I can tell you as like a business owner and someone in the commercial entity is that it's 24/7 and it's 52 weeks of the year. You probably only have Christmas Day off. No one rings it in. A lot of the time, people want you to do jobs outside of normal hours, and that's part and parcel of it. So you go away on holiday, you're still going to get the calls because basically it is still down to you. And I've been in America a couple of times on holiday, and where the time difference is, I've been woken up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, your bloke ain't turned up. It's not even 8 o'clock here. 10 minutes later, he's ringing me. Oh, he's here now. He's got me out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. Things like that.
Yeah.
But I've had to pick up the phone. You can't not. And there was another instance, actually. We've done some work in Oxford University for a company called Longcross, and they're not here anymore, Longcross, but we was doing some night work at Oxford University, and like the guy rang me up about 2 o'clock in the morning, but like my phone was beside the bed, right? My phone was beside the bed, so it was on just in case anything should happen, and he rang me up, at the contracts manager there, and he said, like, we need some more paint for the morning and bits, and I went, yeah, that's fine. He went, I can't believe that you picked up the phone. I said, I can't believe you rung me at 2 o'clock in the morning to talk about the order I've got to do at 9 o'clock the following morning. So, what was that conversation all about? So I think he was doing it to test me out to see, to see if I was still on my toes. I wasn't, I was laying down, but I mean...
yeah.
But you do get that, though, and the whole thing about business is that it's 24/7. It is, and you're responsible for it. But take that responsibility on. It's not a bad thing, but you will get calls outside of work, and people want to speak to you, people want to talk to you. That's all part and parcel of your job, unfortunately.
So in terms of getting work then, Simon, obviously you mentioned getting to know people, maintaining those relationships. For a smaller company, obviously the larger companies are more established, they've got those relationships, but for the smaller guys listening, is there any other way that you would suggest that they generate new business, generate those contacts in the first place?
Yeah, I think there's business clubs around, you can go to. I was part of Bognor Business Club for about, I think it was 3.5 years I was there. I managed to get a little bit of work out of them. And also, I actually used them as well. There were solicitors in the group, there was electricians in there. There was various people and trades that you could use yourself, so that you could recommend on as well, and what you need. There's a couple of things come up for contracts issues that I actually use one of the solicitors there for. So it's not just you getting work, it's you actually being affiliated so that you can use them as well. And that's the whole part of the business world, So that's quite a good thing to get into, I think, really.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's only really probably one early morning for 2 hours a week. Don't have to turn up every week. But I mean, if you're there most weeks and you can give a presentation, which I used to give probably every 2 months, or it was the same presentation, but people got the message, then I think that's well worth it as well, because other people are still spreading your name, and that's what you need. You definitely need people to spread your name everywhere to get more work.
Yeah, as you say, there's a good little network for other professionals that you can use. Also, if you mentioned there, you touched on something there about doing a presentation. A lot of people getting into business, the worst thing that they frighten the life out of them and said they had to stand up in front of people and talk. So just learning those skills as well as it's developing yourself. You should always be looking to develop yourself as an individual, and public speaking is, if not one of the most difficult things to do. So yeah, if you can dip your toe in the water there, then that's definitely going to help. But there are so many property networking organisations out there. So if anybody's listening to this and they want to start developing those contacts, then definitely, search for some property networking organisations?
Well, actually, it was funny, actually, because when I first joined that business club, I was petrified of standing up in front. I think, oh my God, how am I going to sort this out and do this? I think I'll be stuttering all over the place. And I'm thinking, but you're not that sort of person, Simon. You know, just get up there and do it. I was sweating during the night. I was waking up and everything. Oh my God, I've got to stand up in front of everybody. But I put myself under pressure that I didn't really need to do it. And by the time I got there, I didn't even worry about it. I had the presentation all done. I knew what I had to say. I had all these slides going and the various bits of work we had. And you know what? I sort of went off with a breeze. And you're only meant to be up there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes up there. And the woman was saying on the clock, look, come on, all right. She's ringing the bell thinking we do want to get out of here this morning. And, but I really enjoyed it. And it was nice to have that confidence to come across because I just got engrossed in what I was doing. And I really wanted people to see all the different aspects of like my paintwork, you know. And I made things a little bit funny as well, a little bit humour. I put all the slides up of all different houses that we painted, all different commercial places that we painted. And then in the end, I actually finished off with, I got a couple of houses up that people have painted and it looked like a cow or something that was bright pink. And in the end, I finished up with, do you want your house painted like this? And everyone said, no. I said, well, use us then, because we don't do that sort of work, you know. And it was things like that, you know. So, and I did really like putting that together, all those slides. It's quite good because, like, it's part of you that's going into it. And
also, it can come across, if you have passion for what you do, that will come across in the presentation.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And I think you've got to be a people sort of person. People have got to like you, and people have got, because like, they've got to get on with you, you know, if they're giving you a job. And I think whether you're, I don't know, lowest price or highest price, you've got to convince someone to use them, to use you, because I mean, they've got to like your face, they've got to like who you are, how you portray yourself, and how you're going to do the job. And all those things have got to, you got to tick the box from all those things.
Yeah, you're constantly selling. You're constantly selling yourself. They've got to learn to trust you.
Yeah. And I think if you can come across and do that, then I think people will give you the job. You know, I've talked myself into so much work and stuff. Sometimes I thought, oh my God, I've come out of there thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I think everyone does sometimes, don't they? But then you sort of settle down. You think, well, I've got that now. Now I don't have to concentrate on that aspect now. I can concentrate on actually delivering, getting the right people for that job. You know, you got sort of 4 or 5 weeks before you start the job. So you got preparation, and preparation is key. It's not just preparation for painting. It's the preparation for the job.
Whole job. Yeah.
Set yourself up properly, you know. All right, if you go for the meetings and then it's the following day, you won't have any preparation, but that's very, very rare. I mean, usually there's time 3, 4 or 5 weeks before you're actually on site, but just prepare for that properly. Make sure you talk to your. Well, another thing is actually that we haven't crossed is materials. You know, go and speak to the reps. Get them on your side. Get them on board. I've got a great relationship with Crown and Dulux. Crown Paints I speak to almost on a daily basis, and they're always specifying jobs for me as well, because you know, some of the jobs we do get as extras which are outside of the contract. So like we might have for instance, we've got a job over at Harrow at the moment, and we're only there to do the internal parts of the studio flats. And I think there's 14 of them. Now they want the exterior done. So I rung Darren from Crown Paints and I said, look, can you go up there and have a look and do a spec? He was up there the following week, done a complete spec. And when I sent my estimate over, I attached all the specification which Crown had done as well. And that really looked good, you know, because like from the client point of view, it actually looked as though that I'd done a lot of work to do that. But really, I just called Darren to do it, basically, you know. But then adding on to your bit, it looks so professional, you know. And that way, because Crown has specified it, I didn't have to think about going through a chart or internet or asking people about what's the best paint for this, what's the best paint for that, and if it's chalky, if it's surfaces aren't quite right, and a bare render and that sort of thing. What do I use on that? Is there new products out that might do it? Darren just took all that away and from Crown Paints, and he said, no, do this, this, and this. I'll write it all up, put it in a spec, attach it with your estimate. There you are.
Yeah, no, it shows a lot more due diligence, doesn't it? A lot more professionalism.
Oh, totally, because materials change. The paint now, there's no lead in paint now. There was when I started out. That's how long ago it was, right? I don't like to think back that far, but, only think forward, not back. So, things have changed. I think you've got to keep up to speed with it all, but like having that regular contact with the Crown and Dulux reps, they tell you what's coming up, and the paints, evolving for like different surfaces. We've got an unbelievable paint company coming over the last sort of 10 years, Zinsser. They're an American company. They're a problem-solving paint. And my God, it has solved a lot of problems in our industry. Absolute massive amount. Leaks that come through the ceiling. So they've even got paint that goes over the wet leak and it will keep it back, until it dries out. And even if it is dry and you've got stains there, you could put stain block on 15 minutes, it's dry. Over-paintable with any paint.
And the finish, what's the finish like when it...
Oh, brilliant.
Really?
Brilliant, yeah. Brilliant. The paints are just unbelievable. But it's really helped us out. Years ago, I remember as an apprentice, stain come through the ceiling and it was undercoat. Put oil-based undercoat on it. That oil-based undercoat seemed to solve everything at that time. But it didn't really, but that's all we had. But nowadays, it's...
Does that don't act just like a primer then? It actually is a finish as well?
Yeah, they do a finish in it. They do a stain block finish. And now it's encouraged other paint companies to do the same thing or to go along the lines of their sort of products. So you've got a lot of variations out there. And that's only good for the job you can do because, God, it's quicker, it's easier. And just in case there's a last minute hitch up somewhere, you've got something that dries out quick. And that's been a godsend for our industry, an absolute godsend. So we're grateful to Zinsser.
So you can bring the programs down as well. So that's going to look favourable for the contractor. Yeah.
Totally. But we still need, that's another thing, programs with people. There's a lot of people that seem to think that paint just dries as soon as it gets on the roller. There's none of, and filler as well. Oh, use the 2-pack filler. Yeah, it dries in 5 minutes. You can't use that everywhere, And our programs sometimes are so tight that people seem to quash our program at the end. Everybody takes all the time in the job. So it's a good job people like Zinsser and that have come along to shorten the times because otherwise we'll never get out of half the projects. But it always puts you under pressure at the end of the job, doesn't it? Always, because it always overruns, doesn't it? A lot of the jobs.
You can actually, if the price is of a certain price, you can actually win the job if you can shorten the program, can't you? So if the contractors are always trying to get in and out at the end of the day. So if you can, this paint sounds a great idea. But if you can shorten a program from a contractor's point of view, if they can shorten a program, they got more chance of winning the job.
Yeah, but I think
it's reasonable.
Yeah, and it's all about knowing the products you're going to use, knowing and having that knowledge that you can give to a client or somebody to say, well, look, don't use that product. Let's use this and that. We can get out a day earlier. They like you to suggest things like that. So you know your job well. So they know they've chosen the right person. Your knowledge really is power over that.
Yeah.
And, your people think a lot more of you, if you can say and do that. And of course, if it takes off a day off their program, or like it catches up on their program, they're all for it.
Is that a lot more expensive though, because of the job it's now doing?
Yeah, well, it is. But
the price will probably come down over time, but at the moment,
you mean like the materials?
Yeah, no, that special paint.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap, but you're not going to use massive amount of it so that it breaks the bank for you.
Fine. Okay.
So. Look, there's a problem if there's water dripping through well, every ceiling, every wall. I mean, that Zinter paint isn't going to do that.
No.
But you know, if you've got a couple of patches where it has leaked, and you're just about to hand over a big office block, or like a house, I mean, you don't want a big patch in the ceiling, you know, stain. So, like, if you can Zinter it and touch it in, and it only takes half an hour. I mean, we've done it, well, half hour before the client's meant to be turning up taking the keys. So that's how quick things can be, you know.
You know, thanks for giving up your time and coming to see us today. If anybody listening wants to contact you, what's the best way to contact Simon Liddle?
They can go on my website, which is SML Decorators, ltd.co.uk. They can always go in there. They can contact me personally if they want by my phone number on 07973 753 174. Like, even if it is just for advice, you know, it's no problem at all. You know, you can just give me a call. I'll always be on the phone. I'll always answer it.
Okay, marvellous. And any budding decorator there? Any last words? Not become an electrician.
yeah. No. Start with being an electrician first. Burn out all the drills, and then that forces you into painting.
Yeah.
No, I just think that, like, don't ever wish for things in life. Go ahead and do it. Be confident and do it, and you'll be amazed at where you could end up. And I think if you've got a bit of drive and a bit of passion, and give yourself plenty of confidence, you know, going forward, and really attack things, do it. But surround yourself, like, if you don't know, surround yourself with people who do know about it, and don't get too big too quick. You know, steady yourself into these things, because that will be your learning curve to make you bigger. If you go too big, there is no way in the world you're going to keep up with it, and people aren't going to keep up with you.
Yeah, sustainable growth is normally
sustainable
incremental.
growth, exactly that, and that'll be your best way forward. And I mean, we're always learning everyday things, but you got to grow and learn with it. You know, it doesn't grow and learn at the same time when you're big.
Yeah.
So and just get to a level where it's manageable for you, because it is quite stressful. I've gone through quite a lot of stuff, really, quite a lot of sleepless nights, especially with people paying. You know, that's the thing that gives you a lot of grief, really, people paying. But and I still get that now, really. I've got to keep on top of it all the time with people. And I mean, that's difficult, because that's one thing you're not in control of. You're in control of the work, in control of the job, in control in managing it, and in control of the program of the job, but you're not in control of getting paid. That's the one thing I can say in business, which is probably true, isn't it, Ray? You know?
Yeah, you can only control what you control. The idea really is to try and put in processes and systems in place that can manage those, manage to a point where the next step is outside of your control.
That's it.
So, yeah, and if those are done properly, invariably you'll be okay. But yeah, you can never say it's not going to be 100% every day.
That's right, and it's not and sometimes not the mistake you make; it's how you deal with it.
Yeah, and you've touched on that earlier on with the
I think that's important.
the tiles and stuff. And I, listening to you now, I'm hearing kind of customer service, obviously the preparation, the due diligence, not only on the work, but if you've got, don't take on so many jobs, it compromises how you prepare for the job. That's because the preparation is going to be awful, and that'll just feed into the job itself. So do the prep, do the customer service, rely on other people, and just be as good as your word.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that is the way forward, definitely. And I think that definitely makes us a successful person and a successful business person, you know, as far as they want to go.
And if things don't work out, you can always make a comeback on the pitch, yeah?
Oh, Jesus, I'll tell you what, I made a comeback about 6 weeks now, and I'm still recovering. I played one game for 75 minutes. I only thought I was going to do about 20, end up doing 75, and I didn't think I had any legs left after that. Jesus, talk about stiff wasn't the word.
On that note,
well, thank you, Ray. Thank you for
Simon.
inviting me up here. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.